A&R was a whole different ball game. I mean, you listened to thousands of doo-wop tunes and looked around, went to see the band loads and loads of times before you signed them, looked at what they were doing and how they performed, and got a few ideas of producers in mind, did a few demos with one, a few with another, and it was like phenomenal, you know, it was great. It was like self-indulgent at a real level, you know. That and then Matchbox straight afterwards with Rockabilly, you know. But the dance thing was great because we brought Tommy Boyce in to produce, who was a great one of the great songwriters. Worked in the Brill Building, worked with Phil Spector, worked with everybody, you know. So he was like, this guy was like, God bless him. He was just one of those people you never thought you'd meet in your life, you know, who did Dick Clark's bandstand at 15 and. You know, because as a kid growing up in Coventry, you'd only heard of Dick Clark's bandstand. Now you're drinking and eating with a guy who sang there, you know, and wrote Pretty Little Angel Eyes with Spector, Under the Moon of Love, you know, and these Curtis Lee great records, and you go, wow. And he had so many stories, Tommy. And of course, he'd already had the Monkees by then. Yeah. You know, so you've got all the Monkees bits as well. You know, you go, this guy, and he was wild, man. He was such a wild guy, and I loved him. And he is a sad loss to the music industry. And of course, we brought Richard Hartley in to work with him. You know, like the conservative Richard, who was a great musician and did lots of shows and you know things like that. So Richard was a public school, and then we got Boyce and him together, and it worked. It worked fantastic. You know? So that was a phenomenal, successful period. And then the next year was the Matchbox, because I went to see them at the Royalty in Southgate, and I thought, what could you do to Rockabilly what you did to doo-wop? You know, because we'd already had like 5 or 6 hits by then, you know, starting with Daddy Cool. And so I watched this band Matchbox play, and I thought, these were fantastic. I just thought, this is exciting. And there was loads of people dancing and jiving. I'm thinking, such a throwback. You know, it's just like 1977. So I called a friend of mine who'd been doing jingles to see if he wanted to produce, have a look at the bands about producing them. And that guy was Peter Collins, the Peter Collins, who later became very famous as a rock producer. But that was, Matchbox was his first ever successful first ever successful production. It was just an extension of a hobby. You were just searching through, you know, the first Matchbox single was Black Slack, the Joe Bennett and the Sparkle Tones classic record, you know, which is totally self-indulgent by me. It wasn't a hit, but still the records were great records. They actually sound good today. If you listen to the dance albums and the Matchbox albums, because of the productions, you know, because of the people who were doing them, they sound really, really quite cool. Mm-hmm. And then of course the next year was the Bad Manners year, 79. Well, I tried to sign Madness. That's all I wanted to sign, and I got gazumped by Dave Robinson and his Doppo, Jake Rivera, you know. So I thought, well, fuck this, we've got to get one of these fucking, you know, ska bands, you know. So I went to see Bad Manners at the Rock Garden, Covent Garden, and there was millions of maniacs on stage, and I thought, this will do me. Dougie Trendle, Busted Blood Vessel. So the next morning I got him into Magnet, and I said to Michael Lee, we were signing these, and he signed them that day. Seriously. And I did the first album in Coventry, back in my hometown, with my good friend Roger Lomas, who just had a hit with the Selector. All cheap, that's Michael Lever deals, these are cheap deals. Yeah, these are, of course they're cheap deals. October 87, that's when the label came, because I did the deal with Trevor Ayres at Pinnacle for the label PWL1, which was Mandy Smith, Just Can't Wait, because PWL2 became Kylie Minogue, I should be so lucky. Yeah. But in that interim period, obviously we had all the Rick Astley stuff that went through RCA, through Peter Robinson. So I got heavily involved with that, and I went to America to launch Rick and all sorts of things, you know. So it was quite, it was just really started to be great, you know. And that's how the, if you like, the label came about, because we wanted to put records out ourselves. So it came about with the Mandy Smith, really, the first one, not really the Kylie, but the Kylie was not made, it was sort of half made. We were trying to sell Kylie on because she'd already hit in Australia with Locomotion the previous summer with a guy called Mike Duffy, who was an engineer from Peterwell in London, who'd been out there and done that. But as David quite rightly said, and nobody was interested in Kylie at all. They went, a fucking stupid name, who's that? You know, because nobody really knew what Neighbours was. I mean, I had no idea, you know. I mean, I met Kylie when David and I were the only two people to meet Kylie, I think, when she first came out. The boys wouldn't speak to her. Stockacre woman fucking ignored her. to the last day when she hummed over "I Should Be So Lucky" to a drum and bass line that Matt whipped up, you know. And Peter Pitstop, our club promotion guy, thought up the name because he went, "Oh, I should be so lucky." That's how it came about. But yeah, you can't believe how successful that became, though. You know, I mean, that was, and really it was down to one TV in Australia, Christmas Day, Noel Edmonds' Christmas special, that Michael Hurl shot her driving around Melbourne in a car, because he knew all about her, because the BBC had neighbours, we didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, you know. It was phenomenal. I mean, the Kylie album, you know, was the album of the year that year. I think 2.3 million, I think, UK, if I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I know, because I went and picked the award up, you know, the Music Awards. And then the following year, we won it again. Because I said, we'll win this again next year, like as a joke. And of course, the next year, we picked it up with Jason.